Now is the time to work on these skills. Whether you're setting up a business of your own, working for someone else, or whether your work is taking care of your family, you will reap many benefits from setting up a good game plan. If you have ever felt that there are not enough hours in a day to do everything you need to do, this will be a very positive step for you. You'll be pleasantly surprised with how much you can accomplish. With a game plan, you may find yourself getting more done each day than you usually accomplish in a week. Not only will you be more productive, but achieving each goal will come much easier. You will soon appreciate this all-important factor in your success. Stop me if you've heard this one before. All you need to do in order to be successful in business is focus on the 20% of things that are giving you 80% of your results. Do more of the stuff that's making your money. Drop the stuff that isn't. Outsource the aspects that you can't do efficiently. Sounds great, right? But the problem is that if you're a solo entrepreneur, it's difficult to know for sure what methods are getting you the results you want. That means the 80-20 rule is worthless unless you're tracking every important aspect of your business. That doesn't just mean the money that's coming in. It means your performance. The first step towards becoming more productive is to track your productivity. Deadlines and structure are your friend. If I tell myself that I'm going to write a chapter of this book in 20 minutes, I'm going to block that time off. I'm going to do it as fast as I can, and once I'm finished, I'm stopping right away. This isn't an expression of weakness. It's a way of keeping my brain on track. Whenever my brain wants to drift away and check some social media site, I tell myself that I'm on one task for a set amount of time. It helps. Acting on time management. Set up an account at Toggl, www.toggl.com. Turn it on the next time you're writing an article, recording an email, or putting a video together. Anything that you're counting on to deliver results for your business. Turn the timer on and give this task your undivided attention. It won't just make you faster, it will increase your focus over time. If it takes you 18 minutes to write a 500-word article, track it and try to cut it down to 15 or 10 minutes. From there, try to cut it to 7 minutes. If you keep your thoughts organized, have a decent understanding of the topic, and stay focused, this is a reachable goal. Once you're setting the habit of tracking your productive time, start looking at the time that you aren't doing work towards your main goal in life. Classic examples would be watching TV, checking email, surfing the internet, spending time with friends, talking on the phone, playing games, and so on. Sleeping should not be included, unless it's the length of time that you oversleep. I'm not telling you that you need to cut down fun from your day, but if you spend a lot of time working in front of a computer, you often don't realize how much time you waste. So take a look at how your time is blocked off. Take a look at the time that you've spent and really ask yourself whether it fits your level of commitment. How outsourcing helps lighten the load. This is agony. Let's face it, you're not Superman. Everybody has their own strengths and weaknesses, and unless you're an incredibly experienced marketer, chances are that you're going to run into something that you aren't very good at. In situations where you're playing against recall natural skills, or you have to learn something new, time can be a brutal factor. No matter what level you're on or how many zeros are in your bank account, you could always use more time. There's a limit to how many hours you can work a week before you start to get sick physically, break down mentally, or go into serious emotional hysterics. And trust me, you probably don't want to actually work that hard. That's where outsourcing can help. It's a good idea to use other people's time and energy improving your business. Even if you've only got a few dollars to spare, you can remove some of your major headaches and roadblocks by hiring help. There's a serious dividend when it comes to using other people's time. And you'll find people are much more willing to trade a little money for a lot of time than the other way around. Take advantage of that. Once you're mentally queued up and making serious improvements in your productivity, start charting and tracking your results. Think about the things that are critical to your business, but aren't making you money directly. When you see yourself lag behind the average amount of time that takes to do certain tasks, visit websites like Fiverr.com and Odesk. Start looking for smart, capable people to help you in specialized tasks. This can be a bit of a pain at first. First of all, there's a bit of a challenge in finding the right people. If shopping at a very low price range, you can easily run into people who are using your vital project as a training experiment. And unfortunately, it's easy to run into people who are incredibly literal and try to lawyer their way out of doing a good job. Your temporary employees aren't the only problem. You've got to spend a little bit of time looking at yourself in the mirror. No two people are alike. And it's not fair to demand that an employee do a project exactly the way you would do it without very detailed instructions. You can't be a control freak on a big-scale project. Remember that your goal should always be meeting the expectations of your customers and not necessarily satisfying the vision that's in your mind. You're going to be blown away by how much faster your work becomes and how much easier it is to log into your computer and see the important jobs already finished. It's important to remember that you need to set up a reliable system for profit before you leverage too much of your income in outsourcing, though. Challenge your instincts with these counterintuitive ideas. It's so easy to get locked into the idea of conventional wisdom. The problem is that while there are plenty of truisms that become popular for good reason, there are just as many rubbish ideas that get spread around just because they're catchy or simple. If there's one thing that I want this course to drive home, let it be this. Once you've enacted these ideas, it's going to take a little time for you to perfect your process for yourself. Here are some weird ideas that you can try on. Playing violent video games? The number of aliens you kill may directly contribute to an improvement in your brain. This may not sound like a typical scientific discovery, but it has come from some of the world's finest neuroscience laboratories. In fact, it is the genuine outcome of studies on how action video games can improve your attention, mental control, and visual skills. We're talking here about fast-moving titles such as Halo, Call of Duty, and Grand Theft Auto, which demand quick reflexes and instant decision-making. They're often portrayed as the most trashy, vapid, and empty-headed forms of digital entertainment, but it looks as if they may be particularly good at sharpening your mental skills. Violent video games have been found to cause small, reliable, but temporary increases in aggressive thoughts and behavior in the lab, as have other forms of violent media, including films and the news. But in terms of real-world violence, delinquent peers, depression, and an abusive family environment account for actual violent incidents, while exposure to media violence seems to have only a minor and usually insignificant effect. Want the stuff you like. Sounds weird, right? If we want something, we probably like it, right? Not always. Experiments by the University of Michigan's Kent Berridge and colleagues show that this isn't always the case. Wanting and liking are based on separate brain circuits and can be controlled independently. To demonstrate this, Berridge used a method called taste reactivity. In effect, recording the faces pulled when animals are given different kinds of food. Give an adult human something sweet, and they'll lick their lips. This might sound obvious, but when you take it to the next level in terms of detail and rigor, you start to get a powerful system for telling how much an animal likes a particular type of food. Taste reactivity involves defining the reactions precisely. For example, lip licking would be defined as a mild rhythmic smacking, slight protrusions of the tongue, a relaxed expression accompanied sometimes by a slight upturn of the corners of the mouth, and then looking for this same expression in other species. A baby human can't tell you that they like the taste like an adult can, but you can see the same expression. A chimpanzee will do the same with a sweet taste. A rat won't do exactly the same thing, but they do something similar. By carefully observing and coding the facial expressions that accompany mice and nasty tastes, you can tell what an animal is enjoying and what they aren't. So, what do we have in common with the chimps? Some of our own wants and cravings are driven by force of habit or chemical withdrawal, and not our unique tastes. Spend a week or so without sugar, for example, and you'll see an explosion of more subtle flavors. So now you know what to do when you find yourself chomping your way through yet another packet of chips over the holiday period. Watch your face and see if you are licking your lips. If you are, perhaps your liking circuits are fully engaged, and you'll be happy with what you've eaten when you're finished. If there's no lip licking, then perhaps your wanting circuits are in control and you need to exercise some self-restraint. Perhaps after the next mouthful, though. Don't think of an elephant. At the beginning of Nicole Kidman's 2008 film Australia, the audience is shown a warning. Exercise caution when watching this film, it says, as it may contain images or voices of deceased persons. The notice, perplexing for most viewers, was for the benefit of Aboriginal Australians, who may have a taboo against naming or encountering representations of the dead. The taboo has spiritual roots relating to not disturbing spirits of the departed. But anthropologist Katie Glaskin describes how the naming taboo serves to make people acutely aware of the person whose name is being avoided. As a form of remembering through non-remembrance, it is a psychological mirror image of more familiar traditions, where creating and cherishing a representation of the deceased is considered necessary for healthy mourning. This underlines the fact that mourning can take place in a radically different way, based on a thoroughly different understanding of death, highlighting how any claims to a universal psychology of grief pale in the face of human diversity. How does this transfer to your own brain power? Well, the ideas that you try your hardest to block out can pop up where you want them the least. Don't try to block negative emotions. Just try to give a little judo throw that shifts them somewhere more productive. Can running away make you happier? Sometimes it seems unrealistic to block out distractions from your day-to-day workflow. Your family, your friends, and your coworkers can sometimes seem like a long conga line of distraction that can bump you off of your schedule with one urgent item after another. And by the time you look to see where the time's gone, you've missed out on countless opportunities. But if this seems like a fact of your life, then it might be time to introduce a few new facts. Think about creating a no zone in your house, a single room or single part of a room where you feel comfortable rejecting any distractions. In order to do this, you need to get yourself out of the way of ambient distractions. If there's a TV in this room, get rid of it. Don't bring your cell phone into this room. Close the windows. Only include things that are really critical for your work. Something like a smartphone can be a bit of a monkey's paw. You bring it inside of the no zone with the best of intentions, only to find yourself distracted by some silly jetpack game. If you're in doubt, leave it out, especially if your friends and family think of you as a cell phone junkie. People will take you leaving your toys outside as a sign of serious commitment. Whenever we make any kind of significant changes in our routine, it's natural that we'll run into skepticism, especially if we have had false starts before. Don't be afraid to be very direct and strict when you're establishing your routine. Our friends, like anyone else, will want to test our boundaries. When you set firm boundaries, you guarantee yourself optimal results. You won't always be able to establish this no zone inside your house. Sometimes there really are the deluge of pressing issues that you'll be asked to face up to. Obviously, you'll need to ask yourself whether these are issues you must work around or whether your relatives could manage it without you if they were forced to. So go outside. In these cases, give yourself privacy at a library, a friend's house, a local restaurant, or anywhere you can guarantee yourself some uninterrupted time. Doing this also has the side effect of training your mind to respect this new space. Sometimes our habits are tied to our senses. We're quiet in church, aggressive at work, smooth on a date. Humans are really adaptive creatures, and we become what a situation demands of us. Find a place that you think might work for you, and keep working at it until your brain makes a habit of sticking to your work. Productivity overload? Ways you can cool down. You're a human being, not a machine. When you get a lot of advice on improving your skills and improving your workflow, it's very easy to go overboard, especially if it's your first week or two. You can become over-disciplined and either lower your overall effectiveness or be so mean to yourself that you get frustrated and drop your plans altogether. Some of these pieces of advice are reiterations of points that I've touched on before. I'm not touching on them again to bore you, but in my experience, these pieces of advice get ignored by people who vastly overestimated their willpower and tell themselves that they'll be twice as productive if they put these tips to the side. Very few people can actually do this, though. Let's take a look. Don't allow yourself to feel guilty. Obviously, it's normal to work hard and take pride in the things that you accomplish. And it's easy to let fear of failure push you towards getting goals finished on time. But in the same way that you shouldn't let yourself coast on past successes, you shouldn't let guilt over past failures sink your future. No matter how emotionally invested you are in your work, you should develop the capacity to take a step back and give an objective look at what you've done. Did you have a reasonable skill level and a reasonable timetable for the goal that you set? It might be easy to blame yourself for failing, but remember that you have to be a good general as well as a good soldier if you're only answering to yourself. Bottlenecks and bottle openers. You don't want to allow too much time to complete a project. Unfortunately, human beings have a natural tendency to pull up at the finish line and work just as hard as they meet to finish a job on time. Maybe this comes from a childhood of rushing to finish homework at the last minute. I don't know. I do know that allowing too little time can be just as bad. This opens the door to the guilt we just discussed, and it also throws your other tasks out of sequence and delays them. Either way, it's not a positive for your time. With enough time and data, you should get a sense of how much time you should allot. If you're constantly coming in behind schedule, you might need to be a little bit less stubborn about your expectations. Give yourself breaks. In the world of fitness, the process of building muscle involves breaking down your muscle with tough exercise, building it back up with rest. No matter how hard you work out, your muscles can't grow unless you give them time to rest. Overworking will actually make you weaker. The same principle applies for our business lives. Give yourself time to deeply consider ideas and to forget them, to work hard and actually reflect on what you've done, to plan and to execute. Relax your expectations. It's bad enough being stressed out about your own choices and decisions. When you start letting yourself get stressed out about the choices other people make, you've really got to take a step back. Remember that everybody has a different background and different skills. Hopefully, that's allowed you to make the most of your productive time. Best of all, it's allowed you to put some of these techniques into action, which frankly, everybody is incapable of doing. But know that everybody can improve. Be patient and be willing to experiment in your efforts to get the most out of others in the same way that you experiment to get the most out of yourself. Remember that your long-term goal is to set new habits and adapt yourself so that you can use them for a long time to come. Being too hard on yourself or asking too much of yourself is going to run counter to those goals. Going batching crazy, a little tip that makes you work faster. Between the litany of emails, text messages, Twitter posts, thrilling yet meaningless forum posts, and TV shows that you run into daily, it's easier to spend the time fighting distractions than actually working to fulfill your needs, not to mention the needs of your customers and clients. Once you've lost your focus, it's pretty tough to get it back. And if you've ever had a day where you were stuck juggling 10 different tasks and didn't get any of them done because you were so overwhelmed, you know how this feels. Every time you have to refocus your attention, you lower your energy levels and your capacity for creativity. Let this happen too often, and your brain will adapt to it, refusing to let you focus on anything for too long. Obviously, this can spell disaster for your business. Even if you don't always have a spaced-out feeling, constant distraction can keep you from being the killer entrepreneur that I know you want to be. This is where batching can help. Batching is the art of blocking off a period of time to do one single task as well and as often as possible. During this time, you shield yourself from any of your typical distractions and promise yourself the world won't end during your 20 minutes or so of focused time. The Pomodoro method is probably the most popular technique for batching that time. Make a list of the critical tasks that you need to do during your day. Set a timer and devote 25 minutes to each of those tasks. When you're finished, spend 5 minutes stretching and resetting your brain. After you've done 4 of these Pomodoros, take a longer 20-minute break. If you set up a list of the critical things that you need to do for your business and order those tasks so that you make incremental progress in each of them daily, you can make small improvements in each critical area of your business. Start with the killers, the tasks that you're really dreading having to address. This way you can end your day on a note of triumph, because no matter how bad things got, you got that one terrible thing done. This technique will provide you with the added benefit of never having that empty feeling at the end of the day, like you got nothing done. This is a suggestion that almost everybody has heard at least once, but are you doing it? Mentally, it's very easy to allow ourselves to get distracted because those distractions dilute the main job in front of us. They add a little entertainment value to them and make it more bearable. But sit down and force yourself to do it for a day or two. Batching, like almost anything else that you'll do in your business, is all about experimenting. One of the reasons why it's so important to spend a little time outdoors, even if it's just for 20 or 30 minutes a day, is that it puts you in touch with your body. Too many people have almost no physical awareness of themselves. Part of this is a diet that drowns out subtlety in our palate and our physical reactions to food. But being aware of ourselves doesn't just extend to our physical lives. It extends to our work lives. The more attention you pay to your work, the quality, not just the time, the more you'll see what your own personal optimal working style is. The Pomodoro method might work best for you. You might be better off working in blocks of 2 to 3 hours. You might do best with something in between. But what's important is to track your work and how you feel when you're doing it. If you don't have the willpower or self-awareness to do this, then you might be stuck wondering why you're unproductive or whether you're unproductive. Neither is a good option. Finding out what works for you personally and giving yourself good habits will allow you to do those beneficial tasks on a regular basis. Some quick thoughts on shutting down info distractions. One of the problems you'll have with any plan to increase your total productivity is that you're never quite sure what you should focus your attention on. Sure, there's the idea of tracking your time and your statistics, but that seems like more of a way to weed things out. How do you know what goals you should set in the first place? Information overload can make this problem worse. If you look around online for any particular subject, you'll find information everywhere. Print books, PDFs, blog posts, tweets, photographs. You will almost never need this much information to do a job well. Can you imagine the Indians needing a 500-page manual and a DVD series on how to plant corn? In fact, you barely have to look for information, because thanks to social media and inbox creep, it often pops up, whether you asked for it or not. So, you need to set up a system that lets you filter good information from bad information, so that you can focus on the things that get results. Find a mentor. It's a good idea to have someone you can bounce ideas off of before you go full bore into a specific plan. While there's lots of information available online from many well-meaning people, they don't have a complete knowledge of what your skills are or what you'll need to succeed. Best of all, if your mentor is any good, he or she will have a limited skill set. That means they're going to keep you focused on areas that they have already proven themselves to have some talent in. Give old ideas a fresh look and go on a serious information diet. Instead of buying products that promise to build you some fresh system from scratch, look for guides that will help improve a specific part of a plan you're already executing. Chances are, if you've been buying how-to guides for any significant period of time, you've already stumbled across something that will work if you have the time and the skill set to execute it proper. Block out digital noise. If you visit your email inbox only to find 10 or 15 promotional messages greeting you before you've had your morning coffee, it's going to be so much harder to focus on things that are important during your day. Unsubscribe from email lists and newsletters that aren't giving you serious personal value. If you can't bear to do that for some reason, filter your favorite marketers into a single folder in your inbox and check them at the end of the day. That way your attention will be focused on more important things. Don't be afraid to screw up. There's a psychological reason why people spend so much time overloading themselves with information. They don't trust their own authority, and they aren't sure they have the knowledge to succeed in a given task. The problem is, you never really are sure until you get off your rear and make things happen. Start experimenting with ideas, invest your time to get things off the ground, and invest your money once you've seen returns.